Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Huddersfield Planning Subcommittee. This is our last and final meeting, and I just want to pay gratitude to all the committee members, past and present, for their contributions, all our staff for preparing applications and bringing them to committee, and also the public for their participation as well. Thank you very much. Item number 1 then, membership of the subcommittee. Councillor Firth.
Yeah, apology from Councillor Manisha Kaushik and Councillor Mosh Khan. Thank you. No super.
Good afternoon, Chair. My name is Councillor Eric Firth. I'm substituting for Councillor James Holmwood.
We've also received apologies from Councillor Paula Davies.
Thank you. No, okay, no problem. Item number 2 then, minutes of the previous meeting. Can we approve that this is an accurate record? Approved by Councillor Sokol, seconded by Joe. Councillor Lawson.
All those in favour?
All those in favour? Thank you. Okay, item number 3, declarations of interest and lobbying. Shall we start with Councillor Marchington?
None received, Chair.
None received, Chair.
None, Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I got to declare interest on two, both from the applicant and on the object. Some time ago, I was contacted by the applicant, to discuss the application, but I advised them to see their own ward councillor, so I did not take any action. So again, yesterday, I was contacted by a gentleman. I think he was on behalf of the objector. So I did not take any action, did not give any advice. Thank you.
Councillor Firth.
None, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Lawson.
Nothing to declare.
Councillor Safdar. Thank you. Item number 4, admission of the public. It's a public meeting. Everything will be discussed here. Item number 5, deputations and petitions.
No deputations or petitions, Chair.
Thank you. Item number 6, public question time.
No questions, Chair.
Thank you. Item number 7, there was only one site visit that was undertaken today, so we visited that. Okay, then the first planning application, page number 7 to 20. John?
Thank you, Chair. Stop. We can see them now. Okay, hopefully we can all see the slides now. My name is John Holmes. I'm presenting this application for a single-storey extension and raised terrace, which members have been asked to consider. This application is brought to the Planning Committee at the request of Councillor Amin. So these drawings detail the location of the extension, which is hatched in red, and show the location of the terrace to rear, which is marked up here. So these elevation plans show the side and rear elevations of the extension, as well as the terrace to rear. And the plans detail within them windows which are intended to be treated with obscure treatment. And this shows the front elevation of the dwelling and shows the extension to side, again detailing glazing to be obscurely treated. These photographs show the rear of the host property, which is shown here, as well as the rear of the extension, which is shown to the side here. And it also shows the terrace that's at the rear of the property as well. So these photos show the front and also the side. We can see through the glazing here, so we can see the side elevation as well as the front elevation of the single-storey extension to side. And these photos show the side of the extension, and there's two photos here. The one on the left-hand side was taken during the initial site visit by the case officer. As you can see, it's clear glazed. You can see items through the glazing. And the second photograph was taken today during the committee site visit, as it was noted that the glazing has been treated with obscure treatment, and as you can see, that's in place here, up to a height of 1.7 metres from the internal floor level. You can also note in the photographs there is an underbuild element to the single-storey extension to side, shown here. And this shows the aerial view of the site, and the extension is located in this approximate location here, and it also shows the terrace at the rear of the property. So the site is unallocated within the Kirklees local plan. Two representations from third parties have been received, and a summary of those comments are detailed in the committee report. As set out in the committee report, the development is considered to be acceptable in principle and is considered to have an acceptable visual impact. With regards to impact upon residential amenity, the submitted plans detailed the intention to treat the glazing to the front and sides of the extension such that they would be obscured. As set out in the committee report, this is considered suitable mitigation to ensure the impact of the proposal as a result of overlooking is acceptable. It should be noted that since the initial site visit, the obscure glazing has been installed, and the wording of condition 2, as set out in the committee report, would therefore be amended to require its retention. Having regard to other relevant matters, as set out in the committee report, the development is concluded to be acceptable, subject to conditions requiring the development to be undertaken in accordance with the submitted plans and retention of the obscured treatment to the glazing. It is concluded that the development has an acceptable impact. The application is therefore recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John. Before we go to the speakers, Councillor McGrath, any declarations of interest from you? Thank you. Okay, so the first speaker will be joining via Teams, Councillor Zarina Amin. Welcome to the meeting, Councillor Amin. We're ready whenever you are. Is she there?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Whilst I have no objections and I have no issues with the principle of the development, I do actually have concerns with regards to overlooking, especially into the neighbouring private amenity space or the well-used part of their garden. The use of obscure glazing to all sides facing the neighbouring dwelling, number 16, is actually welcomed. However, officers have recommended a condition, and I have actually noted from the presentation that officers have said obscure glazing has been installed. It's not actually obscure glazing, it's a film that's been applied to the window. That in itself raises concerns, mainly because films can deteriorate over time, they can come off. And what happens in extreme hot weather, cold weather, it's not, for me, it's not a permanent solution. And in the event that it comes off, I mean, when the conservatory went up, it took from 4 months for the enforcement team to go out. So basically, if it comes off, the neighbours then going to have to contact enforcement and go through that process all over again. In fairness, it puts pressure on resources, the council resources. I am looking for a permanent solution rather than to add a film to the windows, which is actually what's happened here. In terms of the condition, it doesn't actually comply with the 6 tests. It's not a reasonable condition because the film is not a permanent long-term solution that protects the privacy and the amenity of the neighbour. Again, it should be a permanent solution. I am proposing and I request the panel consider obscure glazing to the sides, so it's a permanent solution and it doesn't put pressure on resources. I also would request that the obscurely glazed windows are non-opening at a height of 1.7 metres above finished floor level. This is in the event that, for example, a window was broken, smashed, it can't be replaced with an opening window that would again open straight and look straight into the neighbouring garden. In addition to what's the obscure glazing in the conservatory, I also have concerns with the raised terrace. And as you can see from the photographs, if you wouldn't please mind bringing them up, the part closest to number 16 is actually 1 metre above ground level. And you can see on the photographs that that 1 metre would look over into neighbouring garden. Now, officers' report has said it's a narrow strip and it couldn't be used for seating. And now I'm going to disagree with that, because under permitted development, we can, and under certain conditions, extend 3 metres to the rear. Now, when you've extended 3 metres to the rear, you take into account the thickness of a wall, which is what, 30 centimetres either side. You will be left potentially with an internal floor area between 2.4 and 2.7 metres. Now, 2.4 is the depth of that terrace. It does accommodate very easily seating area for 2 chairs side by side and a table, and therefore there will be overlooking into the neighbouring garden. I would request that members just, try and imagine that where they're sat, you imagine a 1 metre fence, which is not very tall, and then you look at the furthest point in that room and you can easily see, and you've got easy access, you can actually see across the room very easily. So there's no maintenance of privacy. Now, I've requested that a condition be applied that a panel, it doesn't have to be expensive, it can be a wooden panel, is inserted on that side of the terrace facing the neighbours, and this would protect both the privacy of the neighbour and the applicant. So basically, to summarise, I'm requesting obscure glazing to the sides of the conservatory be a permanent solution.
30 seconds.
Screening to the side of the terrace at a minimum height of 1.7 metres above finished floor level. Thank you for your consideration.
Next speaker then, Jatinder Uppal. Good afternoon, Mr. Uppal. Welcome to the meeting. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, thank you. So my name is Jat Uppal. I live at number 18 St Francis Gardens with my family. I've lived there for the last 24 years, one of the longest standing members of the cul-de-sac. We brought up our 3 children there, and now we've moved on to bring up our grandchildren there. We're active members of the local community, particularly around the Fixby area, and we plan to stay in this house, at our home, until retirement age. So we have a vested interest in making sure our neighbourhood is friendly, safe and a nice place to live. Thank you for coming on site this morning. I thought it was very important and I was pleased to see so many of you that attended. Hopefully it will inform you a bit more about the facts and the accuracy of the privacy issues and the prevailing and surrounding areas. There's just 3 points I would like to make. Firstly, coming back to the point about the retrospective application. When the original plans were drawn up, the entire structure was just under 4 metres. That has a direct impact on whether or not planning permission is required or not. The whole design was to be under 4 metres. It was only when a member of the planning team came on site and measured accurately the highest point of the structure, that it was 4 metres and 18 centimetres. So we fell short of the requirements by 18 centimetres. I was surprised, and I do hold my hands up and I apologise to the committee that this was not intentional. It was an oversight, and if I can, and I can rectify, I would have done. It's just the way the wall plate installed to fit in with the stone line courses. So I do apologise. In hindsight, this 18 centimetres has cost me a lot of time, energy and embarrassment. And for once again, I'm sorry to the committee for that. The second point I just want to draw the committee's attention to is prior to any of the building work commencing, on the north and on the east elevations of the building, since the houses were built, there were always 2 raised platforms at the height that is currently the height of the terrace. This was part of the original house design, and it was required because the house is built on a slope. Yep, the whole street is on a slope. So for 30 years, there has been a platform on the north and on the east side, allowing for a viewing area directly into the neighbours' gardens. The last point I'd like to raise...
30 seconds.
The last thing I'd like to point out is that I believe the planning and development team have been very thorough and exhaustive in focusing on the real details of the project. I also think they've duly considered all the relevant objections fairly, accurately, and in line with planning regulation. It's very clearly documented in their report. The recommendations, in my view, are robust, written by a planning expert, reviewed by their team leader, and supported by my own planning experts.
Thank you, Mr. Uppal. Thank you for your contributions. And our last speaker is the agent, Alison Dunville. Good afternoon. Welcome to the meeting.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chair, members. As you have heard, as a result of a genuine mistake on the part of the applicant, the extension was thought to be permitted development, but in fact required planning permission, and therefore Mr. Uppal and his family sincerely apologise. In respect of, as you would have noted from the officer's report, the proposed development is considered to relate satisfactorily to the host building and has an acceptable impact on visual amenity. In respect of residential amenity, paragraph 10.26 of the committee report confirms, and I quote, "The development does not have an unduly oppressive or overbearing impact and is acceptable in this regard." This just leaves the matter of potential overlooking to the neighbour's garden as the only issue of contention in this case. Officers are entirely content that this matter is capable of being addressed, and paragraph 10.22 of the report states, and I quote again, "It is considered that subject to a condition requiring the treatment of the windows on the south, southeast and eastern elevations to ensure they are obscured to achieve level 4 standard of obscurity, suitable mitigation can be ensured which overcomes the impact of the extension as a result of overlooking from the single-storey extension's south, southeast and eastern elevations." The applicant is more than willing to comply with this condition, and by way of a demonstration for the committee on the site visit today, obscure film has been installed to illustrate how this would prevent overlooking of the neighbour's property. In terms of the raised patio area, officers are also consider that the impact of potential overlooking from the proposed terrace would not be detrimental. It's also worth noting that the extension has a sloping roof, and therefore it's only the part closest to the house that exceeds 4 metres in height by a mere 18 centimetres. In normal circumstances, if the overall height of a side extension roof measures 4 metres or below, it would be permitted development. In conclusion, as confirmed by your officers, subject to the obscure glazing, the development would accord with policies LP1, LP2 and LP24 of the Kirklees local plan, Principles 3, 4, 5 and 6 of the Council's adopted House Extensions and Alterations Supplementary Planning document, as well as policies within Chapter 12 of the National Planning Policy Framework. It's therefore respectfully requested that, subject to the inclusion of the obscure glazing condition, that members support the officer's recommendation and approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you to all our speakers and for your contributions. We will now hear from the committee on any questions, any concerns and any contributions. Councillor Lawson first.
Thank you, Chair. Is one thing I noticed when we were actually at the site visit, there's a window on the side of the actual house. How long has that actually been there?
That is...
Oh.
At the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
There was also regarding the actual frosting is the actual film that's actually been put on the windows is from looking in and both out. It looked pretty good, and also from personal experience, my own mother has got something similar to that on her kitchen window that's been instilled at least 7 or 8 years. And obviously in the kitchen, you've got the heat from cooking, you've got sort of any condensation from things like that, and it is in still working order, and you can't see in or out of it at night either. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lawson. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Chair. I had a look round from both sides this morning, and I couldn't fail to be impressed by the quality of build. Actually, it's superb. And I stood on the terrace and could see a small corner of the property next door. But what I would like in the main to ask our planning officers, who are the experts in this film that's actually been stuck on, I presume, what's the life of that film? Because we must have come across this before, and the quality of this obscure screening material.
Thank you, Councillor Firth. Councillor Sokol and then Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, while I accept this is a retrospective application, but while I was on the site visit this morning, I've seen some measures have been taken to further protect the obscurity. Yeah. With regard level, I think it's a level 4. We are talking about level 4 standard obscurity with the height of 1.7 meter, I think there was, and a clear glaze opening have been installed. Yeah, well, that's what I noticed on the site visit. With regard to the raised terrace, yeah, this is located to the side and rear of the property, yeah, and partly on the underbelt to the single-story extension, and this project is 2.4 from the rear. Single-story extension, Mr. Chair, to the side by 2.3 meter is setback from the elevation by 1.7 meters. Yeah? As Mr. Chair, I think as it stands, I don't think it would overshadow the neighboring property. Yeah, I had in mind before I went on the side bit to propose with further height of the fence. But while I was there, I don't think there is any need for that, because I noticed we went from the both garden. I think we did not see any overlooking on there. Yeah. So, Chair, I've been on the planning committee for many years. Always try and hope the neighboring resident they respect to the rights of each other rights and live in a friendly neighborhood. That's what I'm hoping to hear they should do there. Mr. Chair, I think if the officer recommendation is, and it's very clear, if the committee refuses this application, the applicant might go to the appeal, and he won it very easily. Yeah? So I'm happy to take into account this condition already imposed, yeah, to move the officer recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Sokol. So we have a mover for the officer's recommendation to approve. Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Chair. Just two really quick ones. It was mentioned that this application wouldn't be necessary if the extension was under 4 metres and that it's over by 18 centimetres. Can I just clarify whether the council saw the original plans, and if so, has the glazing height been increased, or is it just the building work, the top of it, that has increased it by 18 centimetres? And if so, then that wouldn't have any impact on the overlooking. And also, if it was under 4 metres, would it have, so if they were to cut off the brickwork above it, shall we say, would it still have required the covering, if you will, the glass obscurity? Because if it isn't, then in theory, all of these issues wouldn't be there if it was just a little bit. If the viewing issues would still be there had it have fallen under 4 metres. So I just want to clarify, if the building was under 4 metres, then, and the glass was the same height as it is now, would it have required the shading? And also on the original plans, can we confirm that the glazing was of the same height as it is actually finished? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McGrath. Councillor Marchington, and then I think John will summarise. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I think we're familiar in committee with issues around overlooking habitable rooms when we get new applications come through. John, can you just clarify what the issue is with overlooking gardens and what rights people have to privacy in a garden as opposed to a habitable room?
Thank you, Councillor Marchington. John, would you like to pick up on a couple of points, the height and the overlooking?
Yeah, so I've got some notes from a number of questions raised, so I'll start from the top. In terms of the window on the side of the house, how long it's been there, that's an original side elevation of the host property. Those properties were granted. Yeah, sure, I can get the photograph up. It may not be included on the photo, but I'll have a look. No problem. So it's this window here that we're talking about. So that's, as far as I'm aware, that's an original window. If it wasn't an original window and was inserted, it could have been done under PD anyway. So yeah, that's that question, hopefully answered. The next question was film stuck on what its lifespan would be. So from a quick sort of look over different companies, etc., it seems that it varies in terms of its lifespan. And it varies in terms of the guarantee that's offered. Some offer 5 years, some offer 10. Essentially, if it needs replacing, it would need replacing. The way the condition's worded is that the obscure treatment would have to be provided. So if you replaced it, you'd have to do it sort of almost immediately. And any breaching of that condition, such as you removed it and intended to replace it a week later, would be enforceable, essentially. And any breach condition, there's a 10-year time frame for action to be taken. So it would need to be a breach for a very long time to be immune from any enforcement action being taken. So the other questions were clarify if the original plans were seen. No, this basically was brought to the attention of the enforcement team, whose initial response was to invite an application to be submitted, which has been. I'll just stop sharing my screen, sorry. And in terms of making it PD, you would need to, yes, drop to 4 metres for the topmost part of the roof. They would likely also need to drop the height of the eaves, which is where your gutter level is. In terms of if it was permitted development, if it was permitted development, there is no requirement for obscure glazing for any of the glazing within the structure under PD. And overlooking gardens, yeah, I mean, this sort of guidance and policy that the council has does reference overlooking windows and habitable windows, but it does also just talk about overlooking in general. So as a general sort of approach that you would take, I think the critical thing is it a significantly private area of amenity space, and if a development does take place, does it affect an area of the amenity space, or does a private area remain following the development taking place? And that was the sort of consideration that's taken place in the recommendation that's put forward. Yep, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John. Councillor Firth.
After listening to the officer, I'm quite satisfied. And I'd like to second the officer's recommendation by Councillor Sokol.
Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder for the officer's recommendation to approve. Any more contributions from anyone from the committee? No. Sheila, I think we'll move to the vote, yeah.
So you're voting on the officer recommendation to approve the application subject to the amendment of the wording of condition 2 to require retention of the obscure glazing. Councillor Sokol?
For.
Councillor Firth?
For.
Councillor Lawson?
For.
Councillor Safdar?
For.
Councillor McGrath? For. Councillor Bellamy?
For.
Councillor Marchington?
For.
Councillor Lee Richards?
For.
Councillor Ola?
For.
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you, everybody. That concludes our meeting. Thanks for your attendance.